Welcome to Living Life in the End for the Successful and Fulfilled Woman. I am your host, Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, the liberated lawyer. I help women to get everything they desire in life by equipping them with powerful strategies to achieve the fulfillment they desire and deserve. Who said you can't have it all? Clearly, they did not know about living life in the end. When women make powerful decisions and create great strategies, they can have everything they desire in life. Girlfriend, forget about choosing between being successful or fulfilled. You can be successful and fulfilled. It's time for you to get everything you desire and deserve. It's time for you to live your life on purpose. It's time for you to live a life that is fulfilled, meaningful, and full of joy. It's time for you to walk boldly in the power of your decisions. If you are going to be in this world, you need to be fulfilled in this life. Life is too long to be unfulfilled. Join me for another episode of Living Life in the End, where you learn how to live fulfilled, fit, and free. Welcome to Designing a Life on Purpose series. You often hear me say at the end of each musing that fulfillment doesn't happen simply because we desire it. It happens when we decide to go get it. Well, this series is going to walk us through the 11 petals of the Successful and Fulfilled Woman framework so that we are equipped to design the life we desire and deserve. Being successful and fulfilled comes about from building a life that is on 3 foundational pillars: being fulfilled, being fit, and being free. And within each of those pillars are petals that enable us to blossom and bloom into the life we desire and deserve. So as we design a life that actually works for us, we can become empowered as we open up each petal that give rise to being successful and fulfilled. Within the fulfillment foundation are the petals: family, friends, love, and purpose. The fit petals are fitness, focus, and faith. And free petals are finances, frolic, fashion, and freedom. So in this series, we're going to walk through each of these petals, and I'll share a little bit of how I have used these in my own life and invite you to use the power of these petals for yourself. Hey, it's time. It's time for Musing from the Mind of Dr. SDB, where I share provocative thoughts that help you live your life in the and. Girl, I've got something on my mind. Let me tell you something that nobody says out loud. You can have all the money. You can have the finest man. You can have the best career, the most sensuous and fit body, the fabulous wardrobe, and still not be free. And if you're not free, none of the rest of it really matters. Yes, this is a powerful way to close out the free pillar. And this isn't just another petal. This is the why behind all the others. Welcome to the final episode as we reveal all of the petals that make up the fulfilled, fit, and free pillars. This final petal is about true freedom. Not fantasy freedom, not Instagram freedom, not I'm busy but blessed freedom, but we're talking about real freedom, emotional freedom, financial freedom, mental freedom, relational freedom, time freedom, identity freedom, and the freedom to own your own voice. Because free is the pillar and petal that allows a woman to hold it all without being owned by any of it. So let's start with what freedom is not. Because you can be married and trapped. You can be single and trapped. You can be rich and trapped. You can be fit and trapped. I think you get the picture here. You can be successful and trapped. And while we're trying to live life in the and trapped ain't the part we're trying to embrace. We don't want to be trapped by expectations of others, expectations of society, expectations of our parents, expectations by the media, false expectations that we have made up and assumed without really being honest about if they are even credible. We can be trapped by approval seeking. We want to be liked. We want everybody to think we're the greatest. We want approval from our parents. We want approval from our friends, our peers, our colleagues. We want everybody to like us. We can be trapped by the fear of judgment. When we fall short of our goals or short of the expectations of others or just experience life in a way that some people can characterize as a failure, we can be trapped by the fear of being judged for just being who we are. We can be trapped by debt. We've talked about that. We can be trapped by old identities, who we used to be. The identity of who we were in a different season before we accepted the assignment of our purpose, before we became self-aware and decided to create a version of us that was a true and authentic version of who we really are. We can be trapped by trauma bonds. Many times, the trauma that we say we want to be delivered from becomes a cloak of security. It becomes a part of our identity. Holding on to the trauma is a way of controlling the thing that caused the trauma in the first place. We can be tied to people and places and events and losses that have been defining moments for us, yet are not the definition of who we are at this very moment. We can be trapped by, I have to, I should. People like me don't. People like me are expected. All of these woulda, coulda, shoulda thinkings that trap us in boxes that don't reflect, represent, or reveal who we are. Freedom isn't about what you have. Freedom is about what has you. Because there are many people who have all the money in the bank. And we talked about financial freedom as a way of ensuring that we always have choices and options and we can do the things we desire. And yet they're still trapped by these other elements that create prisons for us. There is a beautiful element to turning 50 and reaching what's considered midlife. And midlife really is 40 because most of us live to our 80s, but we're not going to get into that. But 50s is the time in our lives that's considered our midlife. And for so many years, we've been told, especially as women, your life is over after you're 50. Nobody wants you. You got to dress like a fuddy-dud. You got to walk around in the little pup tents with the weird patterns. And you can't wear short skirts and you can't wear tight clothes. And you got to look like you're about to die and how you show up. And we get relegated to all these things that just represent the end of our life at 50. But 50, oh, 50 is truly a golden time in our lives because it represents a point of urgency and it also represents a point of freedom. Because at this season of our life, this is where we realize I don't want to live on autopilot. I don't want to shrink for comfort. I don't want to keep proving my worth. I do not want to have to earn rest. I do not want to live by inherited scripts. The generation before me, of the societal definitions of what midlife woman looks like. I don't want none of that. Midlife is a point where we truly become curious and we begin asking, if nobody expected anything from me, who would I actually be? That is a powerful question that is the doorway to freedom. In this era of freedom, it allows us to achieve freedom in other areas. In the free pillar, I've already talked about financial freedom as an independent petal that's dedicated to finances. This is not where we are aiming to become rich, but we're aiming to be able to fund our choices, to not be limited by funds when we want to exercise our choices, to not having to stay anywhere, job, relationship, marriage, friendship, whatever, simply because we're stuck and we don't have the resources to go anywhere. This is where we are no longer dependent on someone coming to save us. It's a romantic concept to think about the knight on the white horse who's going to come save you. But you got to save yourself, sister. So that when the knight comes by on the white horse, if he ain't the knight you want, or he's not a nice knight, he's an abusive knight, or he's just not the right knight for you, you can say, keep on going. My knight is coming. Financial freedom gives us options. But let's talk about the other ways that we express our freedom. Emotional freedom is a state of mind where we're no longer explaining ourselves to be understood and begging to be chosen. Choose me or don't. Where we are managing other grown folks' feelings. You are only responsible for your own, and it really doesn't matter how someone else feels. Now, let me give you some context for that. I'm not saying to be callous and to not care about other people's feelings, and I'm not saying to do anything with the intent of hurting somebody's feelings, but whether they get their feelings hurt or not, that's on them. Your only responsibility is to speak your truth in the most kind, compassionate, and thoughtful way that you can. And if they get their feelings hurt, They grown. They can handle it. That's on them. You feel your feelings, but your feelings don't run your life. You've heard the phrase, caught up in your feelings. It is important for us to recognize and embrace and give voice to our emotions. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm overwhelmed. I'm disappointed. I'm fed up. These are legitimate feelings that we have the right to express and to experience in any situation. But freedom is where we don't become trapped by our emotions and we can no longer apply logic, or we can no longer remain committed to the path of our purpose because we caught up in our feelings. We have to learn how to embrace our feelings in a healthy and authentic way that allows us to experience the emotion without enabling the emotion to control who we are, what we do, and how we're able to react, respond, and move on. Relational freedom. When you embrace this concept that I deserve to be free, I do not need to be imprisoned by any relationship, it allows us to love deeply without losing ourselves, to walk away when we need to choose connection without desperation, to advocate for who we are and what we need without reservation, without apology, without fear or guilt. Because you don't stay where you shrink when you embrace relational freedom. Identity freedom. You're no longer tied to the label. I don't want to remarry simply because I want the title wife. I want to remarry because I want to have and believe I deserve a long-term relationship where I can have a partner in this season of my life. You don't have to be tied to the mom title. I am a mother. I'll always be a mother. I have two wonderful sons, but this is my season where I get to decide what makes sense for me in my life. You are no longer tied to the career label. There was a time when being general counsel, being chief legal officer was important to me. I wanted to be a chief executive officer. The title was so important to me. I don't care what you call me now, because the title is not the prize. The impact, the influence, and the income are what's important. Chasing after titles keeps us stuck in places we've outgrown. The good girl, the good friend, the quiet woman, the respectable woman. You know, none of these titles serve us well where they keep us from voicing our opinions and voicing our needs and advocating for what we need and how we deserve to be treated. When you're free from identity and title, you give yourself permission to evolve without apology. Whatever position you're in right now, don't feel bad that you've outgrown that position, whether that is the position of wife, the position at work, the position of a authority in an organization or in the community. The only position you don't get to really abandon is being a mom. Don't be trifling and leave your kids. I mean, you can't do that. If you a mom, if you brought them children in the world, that's the one title that you just don't have the freedom to just say, well, I don't feel like being a mom anymore. These kids can get it how they live. Now, when they get to be adults, that's a different thing. But even then, once a mom, you're always a mom. Your grown children need you in a different way than they needed you when they were children, but they still need their mother. I would say and argue, and I stand by it, the title of mom is one you don't get to relinquish. You get to evolve how you show up as a mother. But that's the one responsibility that does not transform into non existence. Everything else that you do in this world, every other relationship you have, you can evolve out of his existence. You don't have to be somebody's friend that you have been friends with for 50 years, but they are toxic and two-faced and mean and don't deserve to even have a friend. You can evolve from that title and that identity. The point is, no identity that you've ever stepped into needs to remain the same. And I'm not telling y'all, leave your husbands. You don't need to be a wife. That is not what I'm saying. Because even if you retain the title of wife, how you show up in that relationship gets to change. It gets to evolve. My point is simply that freedom gives you permission to evolve without apology. Time freedom. Oh my gosh. This is the best area of our lives. Time freedom. This is an area of our lives that we have more control over than we think we do. We don't have control over how much time we have on earth, and we don't have control on how many hours there are in a day. There are 24, period. It's 24 for me, 24 for you. Everybody got 24 hours. Now, how we're able to use those 24 hours depends on our resources. When we have financial freedom, we're able to invest in resources that take things off of our plate. We're able to invest in teams that help us to do more, because people are always talking about Beyonce got the same 24 hours in the day as any other woman. Yeah, Beyonce got people. She has resources. She has a team. When we are wise in investing our time and our resources and our finances, we're able to grow our capacity by growing our team. But there's also the matter of energy. When we have freedom over our time, we choose, we decide where our energy goes. Because remember, in a previous episode, I mentioned that I don't do what I don't want to do. That's freedom. That's time freedom. That's energy freedom. I do not invest my energy in places where that energy is going to be wasted. And it's not going to yield something that benefits me or benefits another human being in a positive way. Freedom over your time gives you control over what you say yes to, what you say no to, and what you give half the peace sign to. Freedom over your time gives you the ability to protect your peace, protect your energy, protect where you invest your resources. Because freedom is saying, I don't want to do that. No, thank you. No. Period. One of the things that I have adopted the practice of doing is not explaining why I'm not going to do something. I don't owe anybody any explanations. I owe them kindness. Now, if I do commit to something, I'm not trifling. I don't just back out on people because there are a lot of times I commit to something and then later on want to do it. Well, I don't just not show up because now I don't feel like doing it. That's kind of trifling. I made a commitment. And unless it's something that's detrimental to my health, I'm going to go ahead and show up like I said I was. But if I don't want to do it in the first place, I'm just going to say, no, thank you. I don't have to explain why. That's it. No, no, thank you. We don't have to give a dissertation every time we exercise our freedom to say no. Period. Just say, no, thank you. You don't have to put the thank you on the end. No. Freedom is the final pedal because that's what all of this is about. The other pedals are the how you get to freedom. The other petals give you stability and health and beauty and joy and resources. But freedom gives you ownership. Ownership of your own life. You get to live life on your own terms. Because without freedom, those other petals turn into cages. Freedom allows you to have success without burnout, to love without disappearing or drowning, to earn without exhaustion, to glow without guilt. Freedom gives you the ability to be successful and fulfilled. Because the truth is this: freedom requires boundaries, courage, discomfort, being willing for people to misunderstand you. Because remember, you don't have to give a dissertation. Walking away from, it's almost good enough. If it ain't good enough, that's not your place. That's not your space. The petals are not called petals by chance. Each of them is separate, but each of them is connected. Each petal connects to the other, it supports the other, and it forms a whole life. Freedom isn't passive. Freedom is the ultimate decision making of our lives. And we become and remain successful and fulfilled because we decide that that's what we deserve. And you've heard me talk many times before about why I love the word decide, because it means to kill or cut off. We're not killing people, but we're cutting off all options except for the option that gets us to freedom, the option that allows us to be successful and fulfilled. Because you deserve a life that doesn't own you. You deserve a life that's not owned by somebody else. You deserve a life that wasn't designed by somebody else, by societal expectations, by where you were born, by the color of your skin, by your gender. None of those things dictate the quality of life you are able to have. You deserve a life that is designed by you, where you chose each element and you made decisions that gave you the life you desire. A life that fits your spirit, that fits who you are in this season. There's a reason that much of this freedom comes in our 50s. Because at 20 years old, we don't know. You know, we're from Shinola. We're learning who we are. We're experimenting. We're continuing to mature. In our 30s, we kind of get a feeling of kind of what we want. We've tried a few things. We've had some ups and downs, and now we're kind of hitting our stride a little bit. Oh, the 40s is where the magic begins to happen. because then we have 20 years of experience under our belt. 20 years of adulthood or thereabouts. And when you hit 50, that is truly a golden time in your life where you can expand without apology. You are not here to be managed. You are not here to be tolerated. And remember, you are not here to be trapped. You are here to be fulfilled, fit, and free. And if you're ready to design a life that holds it all, not just success, not just love, not just money, but actual freedom, take the fulfilled, fit, and free profile and see where you really are. Go to livelifeintheend.com, because you can't build freedom without clarity. You got to know where you are so that you can know what you need to get to where you desire to be. This is a powerful closing because it reframes everything. It brings it all to fruition. Fashion is expression, frolic is joy, finance are tools, but freedom is the point. Like Denise Williams, I just got to be free. Y'all remember that song? I'm dating myself, but that's all right. But yeah, we want to be free. I can bring it into this generation. Beyonce talked about freedom, freedom, I can't move. The problem was never that you wanted too much, but that you were taught to want one thing or the other. What if the real work of being a grown woman is learning how to hold it all? Success and fulfillment, ambition and joy, discipline and delight. That's what this arc has been all about. And as I close out and remind you of the pillars and the petals, this isn't just a recap nor a reframe. Because fulfilled, fit, and free is not a personality, it's not a gimmick, it's not even a season. It's not just a vibe, and it's not just a cute brand slogan. It is a life design system. I talk about living life in the and. Why is the and essential? Why does that matter? Because so many women have been taught to choose career or love, strength or softness, ambition or peace, wealth or ethics, discipline or joy. We have had the or drilled into us, and we have stuffed ourselves inside boxes. But I'm here to tell you that's a false binary. Living life in the and means refusing to shrink yourself to fit a limited narrative. You don't need a smaller dream. You don't need to be smaller, think smaller, live smaller. You just need a smarter design. The petals are a living system. They're not just a little checklist. They're not something cute. What we've walked through in this series is literally a way of life, a way of connecting all the different parts of us together to create a whole life. In the fulfill pillar, we have our family, where we learn to create boundaries, healing, and clarity. We have our friends, where we accept responsibility for alignment, nourishment, and mutuality, reciprocity. We have love, where we choose wholeness before romance, where we don't look to be completed by the love relationships, but to bring wholeness into a relationship instead. And we have purpose, a meaning that outlives titles and truly defines the reason for our existence. In our fit pillar, we start with focus. In our fit pillar, we start with fitness, strength, stamina, embodiment, literally having the best vehicle that can move us about this life. We have focus that gives us clarity, intention, and mental wellness so that we can fully experience the life we are designing. And then we have our faith that grounds us, gives us permission and freedom to trust, and weaves a spiritual rhythm in our lives that allows us to surrender control and embrace the powerful design that has already been laid out for our lives. And then we have our free pillar, starting with our finances that gives us ultimately the ability to choose. It gives us security, it gives us autonomy, and it encapsulates the ability to decide. And it frees us from the prisons we have created through our choices. Then we have fashion, the expression of who we are, the confidence to show up fully in every space we occupy, and the visible depiction of who we are. And then we have frolic, where we give ourselves permission to experience joy every day and not at some deferred point down the line, where we embrace play as a way of adding to our productivity, and we embrace delight as a right and not as a luxury. And as we've addressed in this final episode, the last petal is freedom. And that's where all of this comes together and allows us to fully experience the life we are designing on our own terms and to fully experience a life where we are the earthly designer. These are not silos, they're interdependent. And just like the petal of a rose, they are intertwined, yet each individual, and together they create beauty. When one petal wilts, the whole flower feels it. When one petal blooms, the entire system benefits. Being successful and fulfilled is not about perfection. Let me be clear. This framework is not about doing everything at once and not doing everything perfectly in sync at all times. It's about knowing where you are and deciding what to prioritize. It's about building evidence-based products. It's not based on a feeling, it's based on the data. You don't need to be thriving in all petals all at once. That's beautiful. That's the goal. But let's be honest, we're human. There are going to be times when we're super strong in one petal and completely not so good in other petals. And that's why they're all woven together. When you're strong in one, it allows you to still be strong overall. Clarity is power. Data is kindness. Awareness is freedom. And that's the beauty of the Fulfill, Fit, and Free profile. It gives you data. It gives you an opportunity for you to determine how you are thriving in each of these petals and where you can devote more attention to become thriving in others. It's data. It's clarity. It's power. So what is the real transformation? Here's the changes that you experience when you stop living your life fragmented. You stop overperforming in one area to compensate for neglect in another. You stop burning out because success is no longer one-dimensional. There's all these beautiful dimensions to you. You stop chasing validation and you start cultivating alignment. I love that word, alignment. Being fulfilled, fit, and free is not becoming someone else. It's about becoming a higher and better version of you. At this stage in your life, you are not trying to get back to anywhere you've ever been before. If there was a time when you made more money or you were more happy than you are now, or you were a smaller size than you're now, we're not trying to get back to any of that. This is a season where you get to decide who you want to be in this life and you get to create your version of her. Design beats hustle. This is a new year. This is a new season. It's a new chapter, a new day. There's so much newness. And even if you listen to this in the middle of the year and start this system at a time that doesn't align with the beginning of any calendar or anything, the day that you start is a new day. It's a new chapter. It's a new season. But if nothing is designed, nothing changes. Design asks what stays, what goes, what gets strengthened, and what gets protected. And most importantly, what evidence will prove I'm moving forward. This is your invitation into the work. If this arc stirred something in you, if you felt seen, challenged, or gently exposed, that's not coincidence. That's awareness. That's awareness caressing your spirit. I created the Fulfill, Fit, and Free profile so that you don't have to guess where to begin. It gives you a clear snapshot of where you're thriving, where you're blooming, where you're growing, and where you're seeding across all of the petals. And you can take the profile at livelifeintheend.com. And if you're ready to turn insight into strategy, book a complimentary revelation conversation at everythingideserve.com. And here's a final opportunity to ask yourself powerful questions. Where am I already thriving? Where do I need support? Not shame. Where do I need support? What would it look like to design my life instead of reacting to it, complaining about it, or hiding from it? You are not behind. You're right where you are supposed to be. You are building. You are learning. You are in the season of your life where you decide how to design the life that you deserve. This arc was never about fixing you because you're not broken. It was about giving you language and structure and, most importantly, permission to live fully, intentionally, and expansively, to be fulfilled, fit, and free. Not someday, not sequentially, but all of these elements together. Because remember, we're living our lives in the and we don't have to choose to thrive in any one of these petals. We get to decide how we design a life where we thrive in them all. You don't have to choose who you are allowed to be. You get to decide who you desire to be, and you get to live a life in the and where you are successful and fulfilled. Well, that's all I have to say about that. Thank you for joining me for another musing from the mind of Dr. SDB, where I share provocative thoughts that help you live your life in the end. I hope you learned something. I hope you felt something. But most of all, girl, I hope you do something. Fulfillment won't happen because you desire it. Fulfillment will happen because you decide to go get it. Let's get it. This episode was brought to you by the Successful and Fulfilled Woman New You Transformation, a VIP day for the high-achieving woman who is ready to be successful and fulfilled. If you are a woman who feels burned out and uninspired, or you are a woman ready to start over after a divorce, death, or other disruption, or you are a mother whose children are ready to leave the nest or are already gone, and you are now ready to create a meaningful life for yourself, or you are a woman who's approaching your golden years and you want the next half to be the best half, or you are a woman who's ready to get more out of life and ready to stop marking time and start living life, then we need to have a revelation conversation. Go to www.everythingideserve.com to schedule your complimentary revelation conversation, where together we will talk about where you are now and where you want to be, and begin to develop a plan to get you where you desire to be. You will leave your revelation conversation understanding the first thing that you can start doing today to begin living a successful and fulfilled life. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Living Life in the And for the Successful and Fulfilled Woman. Please be sure to let me know what made you feel something, what you learned, and what moved you to action. Please subscribe so you don't miss out on a great conversation. And don't forget to rate and review the podcast and let me know how you are living life in the end. Life is too long to be unfulfilled. Don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Tell someone else to listen for themselves. We should all be fulfilled. Remember, your life is the product of your choices. Choose to commit to bringing the desires of your heart to completion. You don't get what you deserve until you get what you decide. Life is too long to be unfulfilled.